Hello everyone and welcome to Really Old Movies. I'm your host Harrison Scullin, and today we got an old movie review, some old movie news, an animated short review, and some, I almost said Halo. No, we're doing Lego Star Wars levels 3 and 4 for the Phantom Menace. And so with that, let's get the show started. Alright, so now we're going to get into today's movie news. So to start us off, we have the Criterion Collection. They're re-releasing the film 8.5 by Federico Fellini in 4K. They've done a new restoration of it, and this disc will come out December 19th, 2024. Now, I reviewed this movie a few months ago for the channel, and I personally wasn't a fan of it, but I know to many this is a classic, and I think it's really cool that they've done a whole new restoration for it. And it sounded like there was a couple new behind-the-scenes details and like background stuff as well. So if you're a fan of this movie or a fan of Fellini in general, I recommend checking out this release from Criterion because this seems very jam-packed. And like I said, they've released it before on DVD and Blu-ray, but this is the first time in 4K. So I think that's pretty cool. Alright, next is the Kino Lorber release that I'm interested in. So they announced that they will be releasing, I believe it was in December, the film 123. It's a Billy Wilder film. I personally have not seen it, but the cast, just looking at it, has me interested. James Cagney, Horace Buchholz, I butchered his name there, Pamela Tiffin. All of these characters and actors and actresses, rather, I'm very interested in. And I just love this poster by Saul Bass, the 123. I've always been a fan of his and just his design in general. And I've liked a lot of other Billy Wilder films. So I look forward to checking this one out just because I hear good things about it. And I'm really excited to check out this release. Alright, so the last movie news for the day. So Undercrank Productions is another online boutique label like Criterion and Kino Lorber and all of them. And they've done a new 2K restoration of the film The Bat from 1926. And this film, Bob Kane and Bill Finger said, was the main inspiration for Batman. So I'm excited to check this one out. And there's a new score to this movie that was recorded by Ben Modell, who I believe he owns this company or at least works for it as well. But I'm excited for that. This release will come out October 15th. And Ben and I may or may not be doing a podcast kind of talking about this release. So look forward to that around the same time as the release of this disc. But right now you can pre-order it on Amazon and all these other websites here. So I'm really excited for that one. And so now we're going to go to today's animated short review. Putting on the Dog from 1944. Oh, wait a minute. Let's see. Okay, yes. Putting on the Dog from 1944 is described on Letterboxd as... Oh, let me backtrack a bit. Let's see. Sorry, guys. So I've added the Letterboxd description, and so I'm going to incorporate that. Putting on the Dog from 1944, as described on Letterboxd, is where Jerry runs into a dog pound and right on top of napping Spike to escape a rather mangy-looking Tom. To avoid being ripped to shreds, Tom borrows the head of a nearby dog statue. This easily fools the dogs but not Jerry, and Tom keeps losing his newfound head. This tune was another one of those that was on Cartoon Network all the time when I was a kid. And I'm nostalgic for it in the sense of I think it's funny with Tom wearing that head and whatnot. But I don't know. It didn't. To me, Tom and Jerry didn't really hit their streak of good animated shorts until later on. So I still think they're developing it. So with that, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. And you can find this tune on HBO Max in their Tom and Jerry collection. Alright, so that's the animated short review for the day. So now let's move on to today's movie review. Alright, so today's movie review is Little Women from 1949. From 1949. Try saying that 5 times fast. Alright, so today's movie review is Little Women from 1949 from director Mervyn Leroy. Some essential movie details about this film. In addition to being pregnant with her first biological child, June Allison also adopted her first child while this movie was in production. After Allison learned that her daughter, Pamela Powell, had arrived for the first time at her home, she immediately left the set without asking permission and raced home to hold her daughter. And this is her adopted daughter. She returned later that day and told the rest of the cast and crew the joyous news. Another detail, all of the sisters, June Allison, Margaret O'Brien, Elizabeth Taylor, and Janet Leigh, reportedly got along terrifically like a real sorority. Allison, who is several years older than most of her co-stars, managed to relate to the younger women and form strong bonds with them. Alright, so those are behind-the-scenes details about this film. So now I'll get into my thoughts on the plot. The plot, I gave it a 3 out of 5. I thought it's a good story overall. I mean, there's a reason why it keeps getting rebooted, right? But the structure of this is the exact same as the 1933, almost shot for shot. I just couldn't help but make comparisons to that, which I really like. I like that one a lot. I think it's a much more superior version of this storyline. And so to me, this just doesn't have the same level of the magic and connection that is in the 33 one, you know. To me, I wasn't as devastated when Beth died, for example. Because in the original one, you really saw how pure and innocent she was. In this, I mean, yes, she's a little kid, but I don't know, I just didn't feel the same connection with the actresses in this movie as I did with the 30s one. And also, I do not like June Allison as Jo, and I'll get into that for the acting, but she's in most of the film, and it really, really brings down the overall enjoyability and experience of the film for me. And so, with that, let's talk about the acting. So the acting, I also gave it a 3 out of 5. I thought the rest of the cast was fine, you know, did good, met their marks and whatnot. But to me, June Allison is just atrocious. I don't know what it is. Is it her acting style? Is it her voice? I don't know what it is. I just did not like her performance, especially when you compare it to Katharine Hepburn's. Katharine Hepburn, I think, is the perfect Jo overall for the Little Women storyline. And so when you have that, and then you have June Allison's performance, you're like, well, I'm definitely going to go with Katharine. I mean, it's no questions there. You know, I don't know. I don't think June was a good choice. I actually think she would have fit better as Meg. I think that was Elizabeth Taylor's character. She seemed more of that. And then Elizabeth Taylor should have been Jo. I think the actresses should have been switched. I think Elizabeth Taylor would have been a much more believable Jo, in my opinion. Also, she's not as annoying. I don't know. She just doesn't... June Allison doesn't cut the mustard for me. I thought everyone else was fine. You know, Janet Leigh, she was fine as... I think she's Amy or Meg. I get the names mixed up. But she was fine. Mary Astor as Marmee is great. Elizabeth Taylor was good. Honestly, I feel bad because it's a little girl who's playing Beth, but I just thought the actress who played Beth in the 30s one was so much better, you know, in the sense of you feel connected to her, you know, you want her to live, right? You feel awful that she's dying, and it's like, how of all the sisters, why her, right? Because she's like the most innocent and pure. This Beth, I don't know, it's probably just the abilities. I believe it was Margaret O'Brien. I don't remember her name, but the actress who plays her just wasn't as convincing, and I think it's just due to the fact she was a child actor. Just wasn't a good one yet. But so with that, that's why I give it a 3 out of 5. All right, let's move on to directing. So the directing, I gave it a 3 out of 5 as well. I thought Mervyn Leroy, he did just fine. Nothing terrible, but nothing super either. This just feels exactly the same as the 30s one. I really wish he had a totally different approach to it, different vision. I mean, with different actors and whatnot, it's going to be different, but I'm not joking. Like, some of the scenes were shot for shot exactly the same. And I couldn't help but think, why is this exactly the same? This came out 16 years after the other one. Maybe to get people interested in the story again? I don't know, but I think he could have done a much better and different version of the film. I really liked his film 30 Seconds Over Tokyo, and Little Caesars is okay, but I really like 30 Seconds Over Tokyo, so I was a little disappointed that he didn't do a great film here. And so that's why I gave it a 3 out of 5. All right, for cinematography and special effects, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Being that it's basically shot for shot the same movie, I still thought they did really good here. I mean, the film is in color. Overall, I thought it was very beautiful looking, and I thought the costumes looked great too and whatnot. But again, some of the camera angles were exactly the same. I was like, wait, I've seen this movie before. I don't know, because there are other films I've seen that were a remake of the original, of an original film that don't look exactly the same in this era, if that makes sense. Like, what's an example? I can't think of one at the moment, but I was just very disappointed with this cinematography. It's like, they could have done something more interesting and more different, because even some of the set pieces, like the kitchen where they're having Christmas breakfast and all of that, it looks exactly the same. It was crazy to me. So I don't know if that's lazy or that's just creativity. I don't know. And that's why I gave it a 3.5, because it looked good, but I've seen it before. So there you go. All right, now talking about the music, I gave it a 3 out of 5. I thought Rossano Brasi, I think that's how you say his name, he plays the professor. I liked his singing, in the German and also in English, and playing the piano and all that. I thought that was fine. If that's his voice, I didn't check if he actually sang or not, but I thought that was fine. But there's one scene at the beginning of the movie where Jo is writing her play, and they're singing this pirate song or whatever. Oh, I almost turned off the film because I just cannot stand June Allison and her hamming it up and the music and her singing, and I got really close to turning it off. I didn't, but I got very close. So I was very bothered by the music. Now the score, for the background and whatnot is fine. It's nothing that really stands out, though. It's nothing different, I would say. So keep that in mind. It's not one that you're going to remember. It's pretty forgettable. And so that's why I gave it a 3 out of 5. Alright, so tallying that all up, that brings my Letterboxd score to a 3.1 out of 5, which I'm rounding to a 3 out of 5. And that brings my Criticalist score to 62%. So would I recommend this movie? No. I think you should stick to the 1933 film with Katharine Hepburn. She's fantastic as Jo. And I think the other sisters are just as good in that too. Now, I haven't seen the 1994 or the 2019 films, so I don't know overall which adaptation is my favorite of the more famous ones. So I won't speak for them, but as of right now, the 1933 is my favorite. June Allison is terrible, really brings the film down for me, and I just think she was miscast. I really think Elizabeth Taylor would have made a better Jo than she did. And again, it's a shot for shot the same thing. There's very few deviations and changes, and to me that's like, well, then they were just playing it safe. They weren't going to take any risks or any changes, which sometimes are good, sometimes are bad. So, yeah, that's overall, those are my thoughts on the film of Little Women from 1949. And with that, that's today's movie review. All right. So, let us turn this view back on. And we'll put that on the side here. And we'll get Lego Star Wars booted up. I really did want to like that movie, but Katharine Hepburn is just such a great actress. It's very hard to follow her up, I think. You just can't compare. And June Allison, man. So I've heard things about June Allison before. I was like, oh, maybe she's a terrible actress. I don't know. But I think I'm in that camp now. I cannot stand her. Is it opening? Oh, maybe it's on this screen. Let's hear how we're sounding. Come on, Lego Star Wars. Yeah. Wonder why it's not launching. Strange. I'll try it from this guy. Weird. Okay. Well, let me go on pause here, guys, and I'll see what's going on. So let me turn on the theme again. Even my Steam isn't going on. Let me try something else here. Let's see, connect it to the internet. Weird. Shouldn't matter, but we'll try this. Weird. None of my games are working. All right, well, I don't know why it's not working. That's so strange. Well, tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and stop this stream. I'm going to reboot my computer, then I'm going to do a separate one that has the Lego Star Wars. And so, with that, this has been Really Old Movies. I'm your host, Harrison Scullin. Take care.